Direct from Fort Meade, Maryland, this is DINFOS Live.
All right, folks, well, it's official. We've got ourselves a live show, and I said, what could possibly go wrong with a live show that's unscripted? Well, the Facebook key could go wrong. That could be one thing. So anyway, I'm Chad McBean. I'll be your host. Let me tell you a little bit about the show. DINFOS Live is going to be once a month. Every the last Wednesday of the month, we're going to do the same thing, and this is your opportunity to get online and get your questions and send them in here to the studio. We'll answer them either live or we'll answer them after the fact on social media. Ironically, today the subject is social media, and we've got with us Quande Hall, the man, the myth, the legend. Thank you, sir, for joining me.
Yeah,
so, Quande, let's go ahead and jump right into this.
Okay.
If you would, for those of that are out there that might not know you, explain to me what you do over at DINFOS.
Okay, so I'm the manager of the social media training office over at DINFOS. I've been there probably around 3 years now, and just basically tasked with implementing or incorporating more social media training into the curriculum.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us today. So let's jump right into this, the Wild West of social media. There are some pitfalls, there are some good things and some bad things. But I'll tell you, one of the main points I think you wanted to bring up was having a plan. So talk to me a little bit about how do you prepare for how to do it right, and what happens if it goes wrong?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, I think everybody needs to develop a social media strategy, and that strategy should be, I think, supported by policy and procedure. So we've got to think about what it is that we want to say, how we want to say it, who we are as an organization, and how we want to communicate our message. It's slightly different. We always look and we try to compare ourselves to large organizations or businesses, but think about it. As military and government, we're not really selling anything. We don't have a product to sell. So we have to define, why are we here in the first place? Why are we choosing to be on social media? And at the end of the day, as a communicator, you're thinking hearts and minds, right? I'm trying to win over hearts and minds of the people that are out there. And so I need to be aware of what it is that I'm saying and how I'm saying it. What's my voice? What's my tone? That's established around my policy and procedure, and not forgetting who I am as an organization. Not only that, but what people are expecting to hear from me as well.
Sure. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be taking some live questions. We do have people watching. That's the good news.
Yeah.
So let's go over to Petty Officer Purefoy and take a couple of online questions.
Hey, good afternoon. Actually, we don't have any live questions, but luckily we had some questions come in beforehand that we can ask you about social media.
Awesome.
You ready?
Yeah.
So Justin Barker, he's a petty officer over in sunny San Diego, and he has a question about how can he increase media engagement on his social media platforms.
Okay, so increasing media engagement, increasing your numbers. Really, we should be wary of the whole numbers game, right? A lot of people will call the office or they'll get in touch with me and they'll go, how do I increase my likes? How do I increase my numbers on the platform? And the question you really should be asking is, what do you want to do with those people once you get them? Right? Like, so what? I want to add 100 more people, and then what, right? And so we've got to learn our whole job, I think, in the social space is to facilitate conversation. That's engagement. Engagement is the key thing that pushes our reach and our impact on social media. So we've got to have a plan in place to engage.
Absolutely.
And to have conversations about the things that we're posting out. We shouldn't use social media as just like a bulletin board where we're just posting things out and hoping people, oh, well, here, take this information and you've got it. Right? We've got to be able to facilitate that conversation. And so I think a big part of that is an engagement strategy. And we have to prepare ourselves, I think, in the planning process, again, remembering who we are and what we want to say, how we want to engage, who we want to engage, at what point. There are going to be topics that we put out online that maybe we want to monitor a little bit more and have a little bit more engagement, where there'll be other things where we just kind of, okay, well, let me just kind of watch and monitor this conversation. I won't engage as much. But in either case, I think an engagement strategy goes into your planning and into your overall social strategy.
I think that's important in real life too.
Oh,
Make
absolutely.
sure you text back.
Yeah, right. right.
Don't ghost. Okay. Another question. We actually got another question from across the street over at Defense Information School.
Okay.
People want to know, how often should you post and what time of the day?
Yeah, I think your analytics will tell you that. You've got to be wary of, so the algorithms drive everything on social media today. And those algorithms change a lot. But they will drive, you've got to remember that these platforms are about facilitating conversation, and they're not really designed for big organizations. In fact, most of the algorithms now are kind of shutting out big organizations. They want to keep you from spamming me. And just think about your own social media use, right? If I'm on Instagram and I'm following a friend, I'm following you,
right,
and you post 5 times a day, right? So I go through my store and I see one picture, and I scroll down 2 more and I see another one. I scroll down a couple more, I see another. You're giving me too much, right? So I'm probably either gonna hide you, or I'm gonna, unlike your page. So I've got to use my analytics to kind of see what my followers are doing. Now, as a general rule of thumb, I can tell you that if you're on Facebook, if you're posting once a day, you're good. You really are. You're golden. 2 times a day is kind of pushing it. If you're pushing 3 times or more, then you're spamming your audience, and your analytics will show you that. If you look at people who unfollow you or mark your page as spam, all of those things are affecting your overall communication strategy. Right. So, Facebook once a day, and why would you want to do more? I get a lot of offices that, how do I get more content, or how do I create content? You're putting more work on yourself, right? If you stick with, like, all right, once a day, I'm going to put my most important conversation driver on Facebook, and then I'm going to have an engagement strategy around that piece of information for that day. And then the next day, I'm going to plan for the next one. Same thing on Instagram. If you're posting once a day, you're good. Twice is kind of pushing it. 3 times is a little much. Sites like Twitter operate differently, because the lifespan of a tweet is much shorter than like a Facebook post or Instagram post. And so you're looking at, tweet to your heart's content, right? Just be aware of, again, what you're saying, how you're saying, when you're saying, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you have to you really have to pay attention to your analytics and what they're telling you in order to figure that out.
Absolutely. I've done a number of hidden posts because of the notorious
Not only
spamming.
that, I mean, think about it. It's how many times have you as an individual seen a page and they're giving you too much information, and then you unfollow? Like, how often do you go back to, oh, you know what, it's 2 years later, let me see if they got their act together. You're not. You've got one chance. You've got one opportunity on social media to kind of get it right.
Absolutely.
So it's important to sit down prior to being on social media, understanding, what we want to do, what it is that we want to accomplish, what is our policy and procedure going to be, what's my voice, what's my tone, what's my battle rhythm. If I can establish a norm, then I can weigh my analytics against that norm. Then I can start to kind of play around with time, right? So if I do something for a month, and then I adjust the time from, hey, we'll go from posting at 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. How does that affect everything? How does that change the conversation, the flow of the information? There's no right or wrong, and that's kind of the danger of, I guess not the danger, but that's one of those things in social, especially in the military. Hey, how do I put this weapon together, right? How do I work this thing? And unfortunately, there is no, hey, go do this and you will succeed.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was some vital information. Don't post at 6.
Yep.
Back to you guys.
So you mentioned in that the difference between corporate, right? A corporate account, whether it's an airline company or a fast food, chain, they can, I guess, be a little more edgy, right? They can be a little more comical, but it's all about their brand. What is that balance between a corporate account and a DoD account?
I think, again, you've got to remember that, who we are as an organization. What we do, everything we do is viewed not only by, our friends and our allies, but our adversaries. And there's an expectation from people who are watching that we're going to behave and perform in a certain way. Now, that's not to say that you've always got to be, dead on serious all the time, but you've got to find the balance where you can kind of be humorous within your organization. Like the Marine Corps did a great job of this a couple of years ago. They had a Halloween post, right? Yeah. And so at a young lady, she was going door to door. She knocked on Sergeant Major Marine Corps' door. He comes out, puts an MRE in the bucket, right? That's funny in that within the constraints of who the Marine Corps is. And it kind of defines, and it's not, it's not overly, you're not trying so hard. Another thing I always tell people, if you're gonna be funny, poke fun at yourself. The minute you start to poke fun of somebody else is usually when you get yourself in trouble, right? It's like, hey, you're funny. It's like, no, dude, that's not funny. like relax on that. So you've gotta find that balance. Remember that, what separates us is, in the military, we're not selling anything. It's not like I have a product that at the end of the day, I'm trying to get somebody to buy. Right. So my return on investment is different. It's different to judge that. For us in the communication fields, it's hearts and minds, right? I'm trying to build my reputation and kind of sell myself to you. This is the good things that we do in this space. The good things that the Marine Corps is doing for you, and I apologize for Marine.
No, man, I love it.
Yeah.
Just keep talking about it. There's a couple of Marines wearing purple shirts on set with bulldogs. I mean,
right. But I mean, and that's for anybody. You know, you've got to remember who you are as an organization, what you represent, and then you build that into your overall strategy. That's why content planning is so important. Yeah. That's why, you know, understanding who we are and what you want to say in this space is so important, because you've got one shot at it, and it's very easy to lose that opportunity.
Fair enough. So we'll keep it in the Sea Service. We'll go over to the Navy here and ask Petty Officer Purefoy. I think we got some more questions online.
Gotcha.
What do you got?
Yes, the Navy's in the house. So the questions are coming in. I think you're pretty popular right now.
Okay.
And we have a question from Ms. Kilpatrick. And the question is, given that we are military and most of us PCS, how do you recommend developing a voice for your platform that is enduring, even though the individual social media managers come and go? And she hopes that makes sense.
It does. It's important. Again, I think that's why it's important to sit down as an organization before you get on social media and defining that. You know, this is going to be our voice. This is going to be our tone. This is going to be our battle rhythm. This is how we're going to act. This is how often we're going to respond. It's important to have those conversations, because you're right, in the military, we cycle out. It's like you can mistakenly be great on social media. Somebody can come into your office and go, hey, you're young, you've been around social your whole life, right? You got this. And the guy can go, okay, yeah, I got some ideas. And it could be going great. And then that person leaves. Mm-hmm. And then you get somebody else, and they have no idea what this person's been doing, because we put them over in this little corner. And you go, hey, you know, you're the new guy. I got something for you, social media. Welcome to the fleet, right? So it's like, you've got to define what those things are, and everybody should be involved in that conversation. So when one person leaves, that continuity on social media is so important. Mm-hmm. Like, people get into a battle rhythm where they learn to know and understand what your voice and your tone is. And what we fail to realize is, when that changes, your audience notices.
Absolutely.
Your audience, then post to post. It's like one post to the next. It's the same thing. I was there in the beginning with Marine Corps social media. The voice and tone has not changed a lot over time, but it has kind of shifted a little bit. And you can tell if you've been paying attention. Like, I was, you know, to watch it from 2010 to now, you know, there's slight differences. We've got to kind of avoid that. You know, I'm not saying don't change, but don't be drastic. Don't be, hey, this is a funny, whimsical page one day, and then the next day somebody comes and takes over and goes, no, we're no longer going to do that. Right. Because it affects your audience in the way that you engage.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think what goes along with what you said is prioritizing it. Like you said, get everybody involved, not just that young hip kid.
Absolutely.
Somebody other than me who's not hip,
right.
and does it, right?
Absolutely. I think we have to be involved with it from top to bottom. And if you can get buy-in from everyone in the organization, I think that helps you define who you are. It helps you, because then I can get my old sergeant major and my young lance corporal together and say, how do we define ourselves as this organization?
Yes.
How do people see us? How do people view us? What do they expect of us? What do you think? And that helps us to kind of, if you want to push those envelopes, but again, content planning. If I have a calendar, I should be looking at a calendar. We're going into April. If I'm not looking at first week of April, second week of April, and thinking about what I'm going to post, I'm kind of behind.
Yes.
I'm behind the battle. I'm behind the playing field. Because if I'm doing it that way, then I can say, hey, you know, on Wednesday we're going to post this, Thursday we're going to post this. On Friday I'm thinking about being funny. And everybody in the room go, yeah, you think you're being funny, but you're not being funny. You know, you know, and so that will help me kind of create my content and drive my content, my conversations at that point.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have so many questions. Let me see. Somebody wants us to talk about analytics. I know you've touched on it a number of times already. How do you recommend using insights, and do you recommend other programs or sites that provide useful data? Do Facebook Insights provide enough? And this is from Overton Brooks, VA.
I think what you have to do in those situations is, you know, you have to make the numbers mean something. Numbers should drive you into action. So my goal shouldn't be to, hey, I want to get 50 more followers this week. You know, it's like, why? Like, what is, for a commander, You know, I've never been a commander before, but it's like if somebody comes in and goes, "Hey, sir, we got 50 followers." What does that mean? What does that mean?
Right.
However, if I say, "Hey, you know what? We had 30% engagement last month, and we altered some things. We made some new content. We started posting more video or more Q&A, and now our engagement has gone from 30% to 35." That's a more comprehensive expression of what the numbers are actually telling me. So first I have to define what that is. Like, what is my end state? Why am I on social media in the first place? And then make the numbers drive you into action. Don't just, you know, accept, hey, you know what, I got 20 followers, tomorrow I'm getting 21, right? it's like, what does that mean? What are you gonna do with these people once you get there? Remember, at the end of the day, hearts and minds, we're here to kind of express ourselves and be, you know, a presence in this space or in this digital space. So on top of that, I mean, I think for me, the analytics or the numbers that you get out of the platforms are sufficient if you make them make sense. If they drive me to some sort of action, make me drive to some type of end state or end goal.
Right.
You know, what is my success? I can use those numbers to do that.
Right.
But there are some platforms out there that people use, but those platforms simply do the same thing. They pull the same numbers and just generate them in a larger spreadsheet. So.
Yeah. We always learn words mean things, but in social media, numbers mean things, right?
Well, I think, again, you've got to, so what does the number mean? You know, what is this value? What is the value of a follower?
Yes.
What is the value of a piece of engagement? You know, I harp on engagement so much because engagement is what drives social media now.
Yes.
Engagement is a huge part of why we're on social, why social media will spread your message. The more engagement you have on a post, the more comments, the shares, the reaction, the more of that, the broader your reach. And so if I know that, or if I realize that, then I know that I've got to feed into those portions. I've got to pay more attention to my shares and my engagement and things like that. I can't just post something and let those comments go away. And I mean, there have been some really, really bad examples of that. You know, you throw a hand grenade in the room and you walk out, and it's like, you know, yes, it's going to destroy everything. You know, you can't just throw something on the internet and expect them to just behave.
Absolutely.
You know, it doesn't always go that way. So I've got to have a plan in place to kind of monitor that, I think.
Absolutely. The wild, wild west of the internet.
Exactly.
Thanks so much for answering those questions.
Problem.
So we talked about Facebook. When you hear social media, you know, I think Facebook is probably the big one. But there are many others, and you talked about Twitter. You know, I mean, there's Snapchat and TikTok, and I mean, where do you draw the line, or do you keep up with the trends? And
I think you have to, again, understand what my end goal is. There's always going to be stuff. You know, Clubhouse is the new one, which I actually like Clubhouse, but I've got to look at how that platform functions, and then how I want to use the functions of that platform to further my messaging or to further my reach. Is it a place I need to be? Is my audience there? Am I being successful in this one place? You know, I don't buy into the fact that we need to be on every platform. You know, it's like, oh, walk in, hey, I need a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube today. And you go, okay, great. You know, instead of asking why, we go, okay, great. And we go in and we do it, bill of accomplishment, I'm good, right? Start at Facebook or start at social media, right? I'm good. No, I think it's you know, we've got to ask those tough questions. When, you know, my general is in there or my colonel's in there, you go, hey, we need a Facebook page. Well, sir, why do you want a Facebook page? What is it that we're trying to accomplish? What is it that we want to say? How do we want to sound? What is going to be our policy and procedure? What is, you know, why are we choosing Facebook over, say, YouTube or you know, YouTube over Clubhouse or Clubhouse over Twitter, you know, and each one operates differently. People look for information on those sites differently. So, you know, we need to start to get out of that battle rhythm of, you know what, I'm just going to blast everything on all my channels and hope for the best. We need to have a strategy in place for each and every single one of them that we choose to be on.
Okay. We have more questions?
We have a lot of questions.
Yeah, let's do another one. We're running a little short on time. But
what do we got?
Yes. So let me scroll up. So from Master and Vigil, actually a former DINFOS instructor, he said, how should you address units who want to add to their social media platforms like Reddit or Snapchat or TikTok, etc.?
Again, I think it's what is my end state? What is my end goal? What is it that I'm trying to accomplish? You know, I think it's a conversation with my commanders, finding out my commander's intent, finding out what it is that I'm hoping to accomplish by being on these platforms. And am I being effective? Do I have an effective strategy for the platform that I'm currently on?
Yes.
Before looking at other ones, I think, and then I think if I'm looking at another one, I need to have a plan in place. We need to sit down and say, all right, so what is our voice on this one? What is our tone? What is our battle rhythm? How are we going to engage? You know, what is it that we're hoping to achieve off of this platform? And then how can we successfully deliver it? You know, do we build content up beforehand, which I would suggest yes. You know, because you want to, what is my content strategy? What is my engagement strategy? All of it is, you know, a part of the overall social strategy in and of itself. So I think it's having those conversations. You know, don't do anything blindly. I think sometimes in public affairs we kind of feel like we're on our own and we've got to, you know, talk to admin, talk to legal, talk to, you know, the IT guys, talk to all your shops, get everybody involved and say, is this the thing that we want to do? And if so, you know, in what way? How can we be most effective? Yeah. How can we establish ourselves and separate ourselves from what's already out there, right? As if you're on a platform and all you're doing is just regurgitating from somebody else, you know, then why should I follow you? Mm-hmm. You know, people should have a reason to follow you on this platform and be willing to follow you along in the things that you're saying and doing. Yes.
I think one team, one fight came to mind when you were talking about that. Everybody needs to be involved, and social media shouldn't be second thought. It should be primary and prioritized. Absolutely. I
mean, it's really, at the end of the day, it's a part of your overall communication strategy. Mm-hmm. You know, social media is a way to communicate. It's not the only way to communicate. Absolutely. So we shouldn't use social media for everything. Let's not just blast, hey, this is going on, and you know, boots are changing next week. Let's blast it on social media. No. Let's think about who we are as an organization and what it is that we're trying to communicate and how we've been engaging. And then, okay, boots are changing. Does that impact everyone that's viewing my particular site?
We have a question about a specific event, but I think we can broaden it. I hope Mr. Lundy doesn't mind me broadening the question. His question was, what are your big picture thoughts on second MEF info Twitter incident a couple weeks back? But if we think about Twitter, the Twitter incidents that have been happening recently in regards to DOD members, what are your suggestions on those events?
I think, again, in situations, we always have to remember, you know, it's great that we can do social listening and environmental scanning and be aware of the situations that are happening around us, be it in the news, in the media, in our organizations. You know, those things will come. Then as a communicator, I need to decide, do I need to make a statement, right? If I do need to make a statement, I can't lose sight of the fact of who I am and what I do as an organization. Not only that, but how do people expect me to respond on this space? Because there's an expectation. If I'm the Marine Corps, there's an expectation from civilians that says that Marines are going to act and behave in a certain way, or the Army is going to act and behave in a certain way, even though we don't always do it. There's an expectation that we are. Absolutely. And so as I'm crafting my content, I should always think that. And I should avoid, you've got to realize, and this is just posting in general, you know, not everything we post people are going to agree with. Right? We don't have 100%, you know, approval from everybody in the world. It's just not going to happen. You're going to have people that are kind of on both sides of everything that you put out. So I've got to have a plan in place for how I'm going to engage certain topics, especially if I'm dealing with like any type of hot topic. You know, there's just a certain number of, I call them bar topics, you know, things that you don't bring up in a bar while you're drinking, because you've got extreme, you know, opinions on both sides, right? It's like, you know, no, you're wrong, I'm right, you're wrong. And we never want to get into that spat or that position as an organization where you're, hey, your opinion is wrong and my opinion is right. Because the expectation from everyone is that we don't behave in that manner, right? So we got to consider that. But if I do make a statement, I've got to kind of make it as neutral as possible. Hey, you know what? These are the good things that we do in this realm. Or this is, you know, I can respond to somebody without necessarily pointing the finger at them. Absolutely. Right? I can say, hey, you know what? I know there's some opinions out there or some things that people might disagree with. this is my position on this particular thing. And I've got to keep my emotions out of it. I've got to keep my, because I'm representing the organization, I'm representing the United States of America, I'm representing the Department of Defense. And so there's a balance there that I've got to deal with. And if I'm using, again, content planning, if I'm looking ahead and I'm having those conversations in my office, if I'm saying, hey, on Monday I'm going to post this, on Tuesday I'm going to post this, and on Friday I'm going to call this dude up, you know, no, wait a minute, hold on. That Friday post, maybe we should reassess that. You know, let's think that thing through. And then, you know, but we don't work in a silo, you know, but be prepared. Again, if I post something and somebody does have a difference of opinion, or they want to express themselves in different ways, what is my engagement process for that? How do I engage? Who do I engage? At what point do I engage? How, you know, remembering again who I am, what I represent.
Exactly.
So that would be my answer to that.
I think that's great because it leaves us in the position, like you said, we're prepared and planning, and we're not constantly being reactionary. Of course, we're not going to know what exactly is going to happen, but at least we have the plan in place just in case something happens.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for that.
Yeah, no problem.
So, Kwande, great information as always, but we haven't talked about where a person can go to get information. What are the resources that are out there where we can go and find more information about these subjects?
Yeah, sure. So about a year ago, we launched a site called Pavilion. I'm not sure if we're going to put that site up. I hope so. But pavilion.dinfos.edu. You can go there, and there's plenty of resources, not just on social media, but on different aspects of communication. But there's about 46 objects on there right now that deal with social media in general. How do I create a social strategy? How do I create a content calendar? How do I deal with trolls? How do I, you know, all types of things. How do I identify my presence? And so Pavilion is a great resource. You can always email my office direct, socialmedia@dinfos.edu. And we'll get, you know, we got a pretty quick response time. Those emails come straight to me in my office. And so we can respond to that. And then also, of course, last year we put on the social media forum, which was a huge success.
Sure.
We'll be doing that again this year, probably in August, late August. So probably in April, you'll start seeing registrations for that. So we'll get that, and it'll be virtual again, unfortunately, because of COVID. Hopefully 22, we'll do it in person. But right now, though, that's it. I mean, like I said, my office is always open. I'm always ready to you know, that's basically what we're here for, is to kind of help people through these situations. So definitely reach out to the office and let us know.
Okay, well, it's been super informative, as we expected. Unfortunately, we're going to try to keep these to about 30 minutes, so we are running out of time. We're going to kind of wrap it up. But again, the conversation continues online, so we're not going to stop answering questions. Kwande will go and he'll get on the feed and answer the questions that you might have. And then again, next month, we're going to have another one of these. So we'll do it again the last Wednesday of next month and every month thereafter. Next month, we're going to be talking about communication planning, and we'll bring in new guests to sit here in studio and answer your questions. So thank you for your time, Kwande. I think that's going to be a wrap for our first episode.
Awesome,
Thanks so
brother.
much for your
Awesome.
time. I appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. And Pedia Sir Pirfoy, thanks for taking those questions online. That's it, folks. DINFOS Live. All right.